What is up, CMS Braves? Welcome back to another edition of the 14th Colony Vodcast. It is Thursday, February 25th, and we are talking about one of the most famous abolitionists today, Mr. Congleton. We talked about abolitionists yesterday. Now we're going to focus more specifically on one individual, and that individual is Frederick Douglass. Mr. Congleton, drop some knowledge on us about Mr. Frederick Douglass.
Frederick Douglass, probably one of the most famous abolitionists that you'll learn about. He was one of the five that you wrote about yesterday. So if you went through yesterday's notes, there were five people. And Frederick Douglass is one of those crazy stories where grew up as a slave, was able to gain his freedom, learned to read and write before he was able to get free and move up north. And then he was just a brilliant guy, great speaker, a great writer. And so his autobiography was another one of those influential writings that people were able to read and get a better understanding of what life was like as someone who was a slave. And so we talked yesterday about, the absence of TikTok and phones and all that kind of stuff. And so giving speeches was another way that you could get information out there. So it was a big deal to go and listen to people give speeches, which seems kind of weird. And imagine, there's no megaphones, microphones, and things like that. So you're like jammed in there trying to listen. But speeches, you'd go to a church, you'd listen to a person speak, and it was a way to get the information out there, spread the word. He also he was in the ear of Abraham Lincoln. So we're going to learn about Lincoln here in the next couple of weeks, definitely next quarter when we talk about the Civil War. But Lincoln wasn't all in on freeing the slaves right away. And so it was people like Frederick Douglass constantly talking to Lincoln and telling him, you've got to free the slaves. It's going to be influential and important as the country moves forward. So Frederick Douglass, brilliant guy. When you look at the assignment today, just a short video, 5-minute video, Lawrence Fishburne explaining some stuff about Frederick Douglass. Then you've got 22 quotes. Okay, so look through those quotes. I'd read every one of those quotes. Really think about him. What is he trying to say? Choose a couple of those to jot down in your notes yourself. And then, of course, just a little biography. Went with the Ducksters article again. It's got a quiz at the end. It's pretty concise and hits the main points. So I really like the way those are set up. So those are the things we got today. Tomorrow, weekly wrap up. And then we'll have a quiz coming up soon once I get that all typed out.
Yeah, and I don't want to give away too much about Frederick Douglass too, but just so we can really fully understand the weight of like what his words were and how influential he was. Not only was he one of the most influential abolitionists for abolishing slavery, he was also one of the most influential people at the Seneca Falls Convention, which was, of course, the first women's rights convention for women's suffrage and women's, right to vote. And he was someone that spoke, very eloquently at that convention as well, and talked, deeply about his, he can't sit there as a black man with his right to vote if women also do not have the same right to vote. So when you talk about just influential people in American history, Frederick Douglass has got to be very, very far up on that list for for change in this country. So a really cool guy, a really fun individual to study. So I hope you guys have some fun with that. Like Mr. Congleton said, same format the rest of this week. Let's make sure we're getting it done. And until next time, be excellent to each other.